Hi, and welcome to this tutorial on how to integrate SCILL into your Unity project. SCILL is a platform which allows you to easily add gamification into your application. Today I'm going to show you how to basically create challenges, battle passes and leaderboards in the SCILL Admin Panel, and how to visualize them using the Unity SDK. And also how to interact with the SCILL backend using events. So let's check it out. So the first step would be to take a look at the admin panel. So if you haven't actually created any apps, this is what's shown. So let's first create an app. Let's call it SCILL tutorial. Give it a test tag. We also wanted to have challenges and to have battle passes, so we select yes on both points. For now, we're gonna let the other settings just stay like this and save. So now we've created our first app. So make sure that you actually select the correct app so that you can actually access the settings here on the left. The second step would be to add an API key. You don't have to give it a label, you can just press generate. And with that, you've basically finished the setup in the admin panel for your first app. Now, of course, we don't have any challenges or battle passes or leaderboards yet. So let's do that now. Select personal challenges. And now you can see there are both categories and personal challenges here. In order to create a challenge, we first need to create a category. So you can think of categories as a kind of directory for your challenges. I'd like to create some daily challenges that the user can basically finish every day in order to get regular rewards for completing his challenges or for regularly opening an app. So let's call it daily. There's also a daily category type that we can select, and we want the category to already be active. So you would select inactive if you don't want to immediately activate the category. If you, for example, plan a category to add a category in the future and already adjust all the settings, but you don't want it to be shown to the user yet. Okay, great. So now we've got the first category. Let's create our first challenge. We could either use this button or directly create a challenge using the button right here. Using this automatically selects the category daily for us. So let's say we want the user to be rewarded to do daily kills. So let's call it daily kills. Category is already set to daily. The challenge type is kind of important. So the way progress is updated in SCILL is by checking how many events of a certain type have been sent, basically. So if we want to track the amount of kills that a user has performed, we want to select the challenge type kill enemy. We scroll past it, here, kill enemy, perfect. Now let's say we want the player to do at least 10 kills. So this is the goal condition. Basically you say at least 0 for at least 10 kills, 1 for at most 10 kills. Doesn't make much sense, but if, for example, you have a racing game and you want to say, okay, the user has to do a lap in at most 30 seconds, then you would select a 1 here. But in our case, we're selecting a 0. The goal is to kill 10 enemies every day. Okay, so let's select the live date. Let's put it to now. Now the challenge icon can be used to visualize, for example, an icon to represent the challenge. So let's say daily kill can also say daily kill HD. Let's say daily kills makes more sense. Okay, now to the reward type. We could select either nothing, we could reward with skill coins, with your own in-game money, so some kind of currency that you created, with experience points, or an item. In our case, let's just say money and like 10 of the in-game currency. You could also select an experience or a certain amount of experience that you want to reward the player. For now, let's leave that empty. And if you want the player to be able to actually buy the challenge in order to activate it, you could also set a price here. We're not gonna do that for now. More important is actually the time management. So if we select activate it manually, basically the challenge only start, or the duration for which the challenge is active only starts once we actually activated the challenge using the Unity SDK in our client-side code. So if I put in here 60 minutes, then at the point that the challenge is activated, the user has 60 minutes to complete the challenge, otherwise it will be reset. In our case, we actually want it to be automatically handled, and we want the challenge to reset daily. You could also select weekly or monthly period ranges. The time zone currently is for us Berlin, and we want the daily challenge to reset at midnight. That's okay. Also important, we want the challenge to be repeatable. So in this last point, we could also add some metadata. Basically, this can be used to further specify what kind of events should actually be counted toward the progress of the current challenge. So if we want to only count the kills, the robot kills that we do, we could say, okay, only count events that specify an enemy type of robot, for example. And then it would be daily robot kills or something. But in our case, we don't want any metadata, and we just want to create our challenge like this. Okay. And we successfully added our first challenge. So before we get started in Unity, let's first test the settings that we've applied here. So let's get back to apps, and then we can click on this playground button here. And this automatically sends us to the skill playground, where we can easily test all the settings that we've applied. So if we use this button, the app ID and the app API key will be set automatically for us, and some kind of random user ID. So let's take a look at the challenges. Press update once, and then the challenges are also available. So you can see the category here, and also we've got our challenge daily kills. So let's try and unlock it. Okay, after unlocking it, we also have to activate it. And we can also see all messages that are basically being sent to us. In the SDK, we can also receive those kind of messages, so we can immediately check if the unlocking was actually done in SCILL. So let's also activate the challenge, and let's press update. Usually this shouldn't happen, but you can see we've activated our daily challenge. There's the time remaining, and you can see we've got 0 out of 10 kills. So let's actually try and interact and see if we've set up everything correctly. So we can add we can send events using this panel here, and we can select our kill enemy event. Now the event type can be set to single or group. you want to select group if you want to set progress to a certain value. So if you want to say, okay, kill enemy, set it to the value 7, doesn't matter which value it had before, this is what you would use. If you want to use, but in our case we want to adjust the progress incrementally. So we want to send an event of type single. And now the required property would be the amount of kills that we're doing. Let's set it to 1. And here we could set the optional properties. So for example, like I've shown you previously, if we want to count enemy or robot kills, then we would select the enemy type robot. Not necessary in this case. So let's try sending an event. It actually failed. Because we need to set the session ID. So session IDs are used, for example, if you want to only count kills in a certain match. So if you have matches set up, you want to say make a challenge where you want the player to kill 10 enemies in one match. Then you would set the session ID to your match ID, and once a new match starts, adjust the session ID, and then also the progress will be reset. So, but right now, if you don't need this, just set it to persistent. That's okay, or to anything else basically, and then we can send the event. And this time it was actually sent. You can see our progress updated. We can also see the incoming real-time message here, and basically this is what we will receive. And yeah, so we can see everything works as we want it to. So let's take a look at how to integrate the Unity SDK into your project. We will be using the package manager for this. So using window and then package manager. And then we'd like to add the package from git URL. So we're currently planning to add the SCILL SDK to the asset store, so it's a little bit easier for you to download it. But for now, this is actually the best possibility to get the most up-to-date package. And as URL, we can take a look at the GitHub repository. So github.com/skillgame/skill-unity. And this is actually the URL you want to use. So in this repository, we have both access to the Unity package and also to the C# SDK that we're using in this package. So you have to watch out, and especially for this addition path equals Unity minus package. So copy this link and use it to add the package from a git URL. And we're going to wait while installing. An alternative would actually be to add the package from a file. So if you want to clone the repository, that's also possible. It's publicly accessible. So you could add package from disk, then navigate to the local folder and select the package.json file to add it from disk. Okay, but now we've added the SDK. Let's also import the samples. And there we go. Great. So now it's accessible here in the packages. Let's take a look at it. So basically under runtime and then prefabs, find a lot of necessary prefabs or base prefabs that have been created to make it easier for you to integrate SCILL onto your project. So the first step would be to just drop the SCILL Manager into your hierarchy. The SCILL Manager and the SCILL Battle Pass Manager and the SCILL Personal Challenges Manager are all singleton scripts, which manage a lot of the setup and the interaction with the actual C# SDK for you. So they make your life a lot easier. In our case, we have to add an app ID, and also for testing options, we need to add an API key. Usually, you'd never want to add an API key to a client-side code because it could be potentially hacked, and somebody could get access to your API key and then, for example, update any kind of challenge progress for any kind of user. So it's really important to keep your API key safe. And for example, you could use a custom backend which generates the necessary access tokens for you. So if you don't know how to do that, the documentation actually has a few great examples for you. And you could just use cloud services or cloud functions to easily integrate those implementations for you. So we've got the SCILL documentation here, developers.skillgame.com. Under SDK's Unity SDK, you can find everything regarding the Unity SDK, or if you need help implementing a way to generate access tokens, you could take a look also into the authentication, API reference authentication page. Okay, back to Unity. So now that I've told you that you should never do that for development purposes, I'm just going to add the API key here. So for testing purposes, it is okay. We can get the API key by going back to the admin panel, selecting the API keys here and just copying it from here. Insert it here, and we can also get the app ID by copying it from here. Perfect. We don't need to add any kind of user ID. If you want to change the user ID and test it for a certain user, you could also set it in here. Let's do it for now. If you don't select any user ID, it's just gonna use an device unique identifier. And you can also see that for now the session ID is also set to persistent. Okay, now that's just the skill manager setup. Let's actually visualize our challenges. Select the prefabs and style 1, and then drop in the personal challenges canvas. And let's take a look at that. Okay, and let's just hit play. And ta-da, there's your challenge. So to actually interact with it, don't forget to add an event system into your scene. And we've got an issue. And now that we've added the event system, let's just take a quick look. Now we can actually interact with the challenges and also unlock and activate them. Perfect. But actually I don't think this is too visually pleasing. So let's try and add some, or load up some icons. For this, we're going to use the icon we've set previously in the admin panel. So if we take a look at this again, personal challenges, and then check out what the challenge icon was called, daily kills. So this name will be used to automatically load a sprite from a resources folder in your Unity assets. So let's create a resources folder right here and select a sample sprite from our samples that are given here. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Maybe this pistol gun will work quite nicely. Let's copy it over to our own resources folder and rename it to daily kills. This should actually be enough. Let's try it. And ta-da, it will automatically load the sprite from the resources folder. Great. But we're still not yet actually interacting with the entire system. So let's set up how to actually send events to the SCILL backend. For this, we need to create a script. So let's have a folder called scripts. And inside that, let's create a new C# script. Event tests. Okay. So my plan for now is to use, or actually when pressing the E button, the E key code, I want to send an event to the SCILL backend, informing it that the player has actually killed an enemy. So when we press E, we want to send the event. First of all, we need some metadata for the event. So the required option would actually be the amount of kills that a player has performed. So be sure to actually include the SCILL.model in your script, and then create a new event metadata object and set the amount to 1. Okay, this would also be the place where you could, for example, set the event or the enemy type. So to stay with our previous example, if you want to set the enemy type to robot, you could do this here. So if you want to send an event of an enemy being killed, you could just add the script to your robot object, and then send an event to the SCILL backend every time a robot is killed, for example. But for now, we don't need this. And in the second step, we'll use the SCILL manager .instance.send event async. And first of all, the event name is going to be our kill enemy event. The second parameter is the event type. Like explained previously, we want it to be set to single because we want to adjust the progress incrementally. And we want to add the metadata. And that's basically it. That's all you need to send any kind of event to the SCILL backend. Perfect. Let's create a new object called SCILL events. Event tests, let's add it. And then every time I press the E button, the display is also going to be automatically updated. Great. Okay, now that we've got challenges set up, why don't we take a look at adding leaderboards? So let's get back to the admin panel and go to leaderboard. Let's add a new leaderboard and let's call it Hall of Fame Enemies Kill, because we want to track the amount of enemies a player has killed. And the order is going to be descending because we want the player with the most points to be at the very top. Activity, we want it to be instantly active. We want the start date to be now and the end date to be, let's say, 2029. Why not? Okay. And like in challenges, we're going to select the event type that we want to count toward the leaderboard progress. So in our case, the kill enemy type. And also, like in challenges, you could also select or add metadata to further specify what kind of events you want to count toward the leaderboard progress. But for now, let's keep it like this. Let's save it. Okay, so watch out that the start date is actually set a little bit in the future. Let's see if this is okay. Okay, and we've added it successfully. Perfect. And yeah, that's it in the admin panel. Let's get back to Unity. And let's add the leaderboards prefabs. So get into the SCILL Unity SDK and prefabs, leaderboards, and select the style 1 and add the leaderboard canvas to your scene. Let's move the leaderboard a little bit to the right so it doesn't intersect with our challenges. And then what you have to watch out, or the single thing you have to watch out is the leaderboard ID, basically. We can get that from the SCILL Admin Panel. So go to your current leaderboard, Hall of Fame, and then copy the leaderboard ID here. Let's get back to Unity, insert the ID, and take a look at what's happening. So for now, nothing is displayed. Let's try to kill something, and now our player is in the leaderboard. Great. But actually, what if we actually want to set the name and also adjust the icon on the left here? So similarly to how we do it in the challenges, we can actually adjust this by setting the user info on the SCILL backend. So let's take a look at how to do that. We're actually going to have to create another script for this. So let's create a C# script called set user info at startup, because we want to set the user info at startup. And one thing to watch out, we can't actually just do it in the start method. We have to ensure that the skill manager is actually set up. So let's subscribe to the onSkillManager ready event and just create a method. And once this method is actually called, then it's safe to actually use the skill manager. It won't crash if you use it before, but it actually won't work because it first has to, so basically this is called once the access token is actually generated. So once we can actually send any kind of event or any kind of request to the skill backend. Okay, but now let's use the skill manager again. Skill manager.instance.set user info async. And we can supply a callback, which is called if the API response is positive or negative. We don't need this for now. And we can add a username and an avatar string. So let's make this actually accessible in the inspector. And add this to the set user info async method call. Okay, that's it for the script. let's add a new object, SCILL username, and add the script to this object. Now my username is going to be David, and as an avatar, I'm just going to set another string which can then be used to load a sprite from resources. So you can set this user info actually however you want, either from the client code directly, or if you have some kind of setup in your own custom backend, you can also call this function. Yeah, or you can also use, for example, Steam, request the Steam username and set it also automatically to that username. But in this case, avatar, gonna set it to, let's say Omega, because I actually know that in the samples we've got a cool Omega sign. So go to samples, resources, and take this Omega sprite. And let's put it into our resources folder. In the resources folder, let's create a new subfolder called avatars. So SCILL will automatically attempt to read or to load the avatars from a avatars subfolder in any kind of resources folder. You can actually adjust this by going to the prefabs, to the leaderboard prefabs, and select the ranking prefab, and there you can actually change the avatar resources path if you for example make a prefab variant or something from this prefab, and there you can set the subfolder that the sprite is loaded from. But let's get back to our avatars folder, set this to Omega, and let's try this again. And our name is automatically set to David, and the Omega sign is displayed. Now, actually, maybe I'm going to explain what this header actually is. And so basically the list or the leaderboard is displayed on the bottom here. And in the prefab, there's also kind of a header added so that the user can always see his own ranking in the leaderboard on the top without having to scroll through the leaderboard. Let's actually try it with another user ID. So let's set the user ID here to 42, for example. And let's also adjust the username to, I don't know, Patrick, who is also using the Omega avatar. Then we can see the current user isn't represented in the leaderboard. Also, he hasn't actually unlocked our the challenge, the daily kill challenge. And if we now press E, then we are actually going to be added to the leaderboard and placed in second place. Okay, nice. So we've got our personal challenges set up, we've got our leaderboard set up. So let's take a look at the battle passes. For that, we're going to return to the admin panel, select battle passes, and take a look at this. So every battle pass is made out of a certain amount of battle pass levels, and in order to finish a level, a user has to finish a certain amount of battle pass challenges. So we can add battle pass challenges right here. Let's try this and maybe make a new kind of challenge. So for example, let's add an collect health challenge. Let's say we want the user to actually collect 100 health points. Like before, like in the normal personal challenges, we have a challenge goal condition, let's say at least 100 health, and we don't need to add any XP, and a challenge icon, yeah, let's set it to BP health challenge. And let's set the challenge type to collect item. And here we want to add some metadata of the kind item type and select the value health. So only if an event with the name collect item with the metadata of item type set to health is going to be sent to the skill backend, only then this challenge progress will be updated. So let's save this. And now we've got one Battle Pass challenge. But if you have some personal challenges that you'd just like to copy, you can also go to personal challenges and select the challenges that you want to copy and copy selected to Battle Pass. And then the settings will automatically be copied to the Battle Pass challenges. We can now adjust the name here. So let's just call it kill enemies. And so the challenge icon should be updated BP kills challenge. Just remove the HD setting and save. Okay, great. So now we've got two challenges. Let's create our first Battle Pass. So let's add in Battle Pass, give it the name, I don't know, Season 1. And let's give it a start date, set it to now. Let it be open-ended. So all these settings, we currently don't need them. You can select whether you can purchase the Battle Pass with money. For now, let's select no, or with skill coins, let's also select no. And we want it to be unlocked incrementally. So usually Battle Passes are created in a way that the player starts level 1, and once he finishes level 1, he progresses to level 2. And before then, the level actually isn't unlocked. So let's say this is exactly what you want. So let's say unlock incrementally, yes. Otherwise, if you select no, the user can choose which level he wants to unlock. And this could be used, for example, for user referral programs. Let's also set the activity to active and save. Perfect. Now we've created our Battle Pass. Now let's create some Battle Pass levels. Click on Edit, and then in the tabs up here, select Edit Levels. And this is where we can actually create new levels. So in the first level, I want it to be active, and I want the reward type to be, let's say BP. We want the user to be rewarded with a knife. We also need to add at least one Battle Pass challenge to the level. And let's select our kill enemies challenge and save. So let's add another level, active, set, and the reward should be an grenade. Let's also add a challenge, and this time set it to collect health. And in the third level, we're also going to reward an item, set it to a shotgun. And this time we actually want to add two challenges. So first of all, kill enemies, and second of all, collect health. Okay, and the way this works is that the user has to complete all challenges in the level to progress to the next Battle Pass level. And yeah, basically that's it for our setup. let's get back to Unity. So because this scene is already pretty filled, let's actually create a new scene. Like before, let's add the skill manager. Let's get the API key or the app ID and the API key, and set the user ID for now to 42. And yeah, so that's it for the skill manager. Let's get back to the battle passes, drop in a battle pass canvas, and basically that's it for the setup in Unity. Let's take a look. So you can now see that to interact with it, don't forget to add in event system. Okay, and now it should be interactable. Okay, great. So you can see the user first has to unlock the battle pass, and then it's actually available. So we have the name here, season 01. It ends on August 19th. So previously we didn't set any end date, so it's set automatically to 1 month after the start date. And we are currently on level 1. And you can also see the challenges that need to be completed in order to complete the level. But actually this doesn't look too good. There's no information, like we only have the level 1, 2, 3 display. Let's take a look at how to change this. So in order to do this, we have to add a few skill rewards. There's a possibility to add rewards right here. So just under create, skill, and then add a new reward. And this has to actually be the same name as we previously set in the SCILL Admin Panel. So if you remember, let's take a look at the battle passes and add the levels. And let's take a look. So the value that we selected here has to be equal to the name that we set in the reward scriptable object that we created here. So BP knife for our knife reward. Let's select, let's take a look at what we have here. Maybe the sword icon. It's called the reward a knife, and the description is it's sharp. And we could also select a game object, for example a 3D model that we want to display. So let's see if we have a knife game object. Yep, perfect. So I think this actually already works. Let's take a look. Yeah, so we've already got our name, the description, and also the icon displayed right here. But our game object isn't displayed yet. So for that, just create an photo box object and ensure that it's actually positioned at 0, 0, 0, or actually so that it is in view of your main camera. And then open up the Battle Pass canvas, select Reward Preview, and now here we can set the photo box connection to our previously created photo box object. And this should actually be enough, yeah, to actually display our prefab that we previously set. Now let's create a few more rewards. BP grenade. Let's select the bomb. So I don't think we have a shotgun icon here. Let's just select the chest. Okay, let's take a look. And there we are. Let's also actually add the event test object. So if you remember, we actually set this challenge to count the amount of kills that a player did. So if we press the E button, it's actually also going to count this toward the Battle Pass level progress. And if we complete the level, we automatically switch to level 2 and we've completed level 1. Okay, great. So now all that's basically left to do for you is to adjust these prefabs to your own UI style. So just take a look at the prefab setup, set it to your own UI style, send a few events, adjust the challenges and the skill admin board, and then basically you're ready to go and you've got a complete system with challenges, battle passes and leaderboards in your game. So I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching and see you next time.